With Masanosuke Ono officially in the fold, Penn State and Cale Sanderson have endless options as far as what they can do at the beginning of that lineup for next season.
You are Locked On Nittany Lions, your daily podcast on the Penn State Nittany Lions. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are locked on to Penn State Wrestling. Thank you so much for making Locked On Nittany Lions your first listen and watch every single day. The number one Penn State sports podcast out there. My name is Zach Seyko. I'm your host of the show. We got plenty to talk about in this Penn State Wrestling episode as a number of Penn State wrestlers have entered the transfer portal. We'll talk about that. Plus, now with Ono officially being committed to Penn State, it's no longer a rumor. It is happening. Is he an instant title contender? But first, we got to get to the impact on the lineup. What does a lineup with Ono look like? Would he wrestle at 125, 133, 141? As always, I appreciate your thoughts down in the comment section. Be a part of the conversation. And if you're new to the show, subscribe to the YouTube channel and wherever you get your podcasts. So where will he wrestle? What kind of impact does he have on this lineup? Because Ono has stated, now in a joking manner to an extent, he has talked about how he could wrestle all the way up from 125 to 157. And I appreciate his confidence just as much as anybody else would. But he did get serious for a moment in terms of talking about his international training with freestyle. Would he wrestle at 57 kilos, 61, or 65? And he doesn't have a commitment yet. He doesn't have an answer as far as where he would wrestle. But in that case, that means that he could wrestle at any of 125, 133, or 141 for Penn State if he's still undecided about 57 kilos, 61, or 65. He won a world championship at 61 kilos, so it would make sense for him to slide right in at 133 because that's give or take 134 and a half pounds. So 133 makes the most sense for him to jump right in the lineup. But it complicates things to an extent. What it does, I think, it gives Penn State options. Ono's flexibility to be able to cut to 125, wrestle at 133, or bulk up to 141, it gives Penn State options. So let's go through them. If Ono were to cut at 125, you could have Luke Lillidahl bump up to 133. He's not going to be able to maintain 25 forever. Eventually, he is going to have to go up to 133. So does that happen sooner as opposed to later? So Ono and Lillidahl could hypothetically flip. It's a possibility. It's not the likely outcome, but it's a possibility. Okay, Ono being at 133 and then at 141. So if Lillidahl's at 133, or you could have Lillidahl redshirt. 41, Braden Davis could bulk up, or he could redshirt. Remember, Aaron Nagau's in the fold too. I know we're going to talk about the transfer portal, and Aaron Nagau is, everybody's trying to say that Aaron Nagau's best option is to jump back into the transfer portal. Well, at this point in time, he's still with Penn State, so he factors into these lineup discussions. Remember, he had a procedure and he was out due to injury. He missed a lot of time due to injury here. It wasn't because he was benched, for anybody that has a misconception about that. Nagau wasn't benched this season. He was hurt, but he factors into this conversation. Anyway, Ono, if you were to wrestle at 125, you could have Lillidahl redshirt or move to 133. You have Braden Davis wrestle at 133. You have Aaron Nagau. The options are endless. Do you see what I'm getting at here? Okay, if Ono slides right into a natural weight class, because that would be a cut for him. And maybe that's challenging to cut a week in and week out instead of progressively training and building for an event. That is difficult. 133 might even be that case too, which is why 141 is on the table. But if he goes to 133, Lillidahl's back in there at 125. At 33, you have Ono. What does Braden Davis do? He could redshirt, or he could bump up to 41. Nagau could bump up to 41 as well. We'll see what ultimately happens. I'm just saying, I'm talking about the choices that Penn State has. If he were to go to Ono, if Ono were to go to 41, and I actually think this might make the most sense. And don't worry, I'm not forgetting Marcus Blaze. Marcus Blaze comes in and he most likely projects at 141. Maybe it's more beneficial for Blaze to take a red shirt. Bo Bartlett leaves and vacates, and it seems like that is an obvious choice for Blaze to take over at 41. But Ono's there as well. So maybe you have Lillidahl at 25, Davis or Nagau at 33, Ono at 41, Blaze takes a red shirt, gets a head start, and then gets 4 years of eligibility, kind of like Josh Barr, where you give him that year to get that head start and then allow him to make that jump forward. I've seen these comments as well, and from what I've heard too, because we are going to talk about the national title contender? Does he become a contender? Does he become a favorite? Because he is a former world champion. He did beat Spencer Lee, but it's folk style to freestyle. We'll talk about freestyle to folk style. We'll talk about it in just a moment here. It is not impossible. It is not, this could be on the table if folk style is too much of a transition for him. Ono has never wrestled folk style before. So that's why the second segment is very important to have in this conversation. Do not rule out the possibility, even though I don't think it's likely, that Ono could redshirt himself. That is right. Ono, the guy that everybody's talking about, the former world champ, he's defeated Vito Arujau, Spencer Lee, granted in freestyle. So learning folk style, if it's too much of a learning curve for him, Ono, because he has the option to, he could take the red shirt. Ono himself could redshirt, and then you have any of the options between Lilidal at 25, Davis or Nagao at 33, Marcus Blaze at 41. Again, none of these wrestlers have to go into the portal or have to, but do you see what Penn State has endless options. They have endless options. They could redshirt Lilidal or they could start him. They could redshirt Davis or they could start him or they could bump him up. Same thing with Marcus Blaze. They could redshirt him or he could be ready to go. Ono ends up, ironically enough, Ono could potentially be the one to redshirt, even though I don't think this is the likely option. And it could be Lilidal, Davis or Nagao, and Blaze, or Blaze takes the red shirt, Davis goes to 41, and you have Nagao. It's a log jam, but I think it's a problem that Penn State likes to have. Let me also talk about the impact on Penn State's mat room. You are getting a former world champion, someone that's defeated. That's why I say it's unlikely, because he's defeated Vito Arujau. He's defeated Spencer Lee. Granted freestyle, but still, those are Olympic medalists, right? Those are world champions, okay? That he's defeated. At the age of 20, he's now 21. So I don't think folk style is going to be too tall of a task for him. So Ono being in the room as a former world champion with the opponents that he's defeated along the way, it's such an early stage of his career. It benefits everybody. It benefits Lilidal to go up and scrap against this guy day in and day out. Same thing with Davis. Same thing with Blaze. All of the lighter weights. It is a benefit across the board. You hear the phrase, iron sharpens iron. That is the case here. You just get another positive, talk about strong influence. Strong doesn't even begin to describe it, of what Ono does to the wrestling room. His background, his upbringing through the sport of wrestling, it allows him to give pointers to the other wrestlers to give pointers to him as he continues to learn folk style. Iron sharpens iron in this case, and everybody is going to get better. Don't forget about Nate Desmond coming in as a 125 pounder. He's one of the top ranked national pound for pound recruits in the entire country with his class of 2025. So Nate Desmond, Luke Lilidal, Braden Davis, Aaron Nagao, Marcus Blaze, in conjunction with Ono, all of them are going to get better because they all got to go wrestle against each other. The competition is going to make everybody better. At the end of the day, I don't know how Penn State's lineup is going to look like, but they have endless options. I think the most likely one would be Luke Lilidal at 25, Braden Davis or Aaron Nagao at 33. Again, I don't want to count out Aaron Nagao until he ultimately makes a decision. Maybe that's in the portal. Maybe it's not. And then Ono at 41 and Blaze. Blaze takes the red shirt. But they can go with any of them, and you're still not going to miss a beat. Which option do you think's the best? Let me know down in the comments section. Which one do you think's the most likely? Because Ono, the talent is endless. The options are endless for Penn State going into next season. However, is he a title contender? Because I have presented some concerns here. Ono has never wrestled folk style. Now, he has defeated some of the best, but folk style is a lot different from freestyle. So, is he a title favorite going into next season if he were to wrestle at any of them? 25, 33, or 41? Let's talk about it on the other side of this break. And today's show is brought to you by Supply House. Get the supplies you need from the site made for the skilled trades, Supply House. Whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is the reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from 400 plus top brands, you'll find exactly what you need delivered fast from coast to coast. Do you need help with an order? Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service, so you'll always get to talk to a real person. And for trade pros looking for an extra edge, they're free. That is right, free. Trademaster program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage, and now it's your turn. Join the Trademaster program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use promo code SH5, the letters SH, the number 5, for 5% off your first order. That is supplyhouse.com. If and when Ono is in the lineup at 25, 33, 41, regardless of where he is, does he become a title contender? Does he become a title favorite at any of those weight classes? Or is the transition from freestyle to folk style too much from him and he struggles to get on the podium? I do want to give a shout out here because Stevan Micic has a YouTube channel, gave actually an excellent interpretation of all of this because he has wrestled. He is a former world champion in his own right. He wrestled at Michigan, and he talked about the transition from folk style to freestyle and back and forth, that there is a big difference, that, you know, the out of bounds and there's no push outs and being a riding time and everything else. The top and bottom position matters, and it's not just how good you are on your feet. So yeah, this is absolutely a concern. Let's address those concerns though. Ono's going to have time to learn. I'm not saying that it's going to happen overnight, but Ono is he has been training with Penn State and the Nittany Lion Wrestling Club leading up to his matchup with Spencer Lee. So maybe in the process, he's picked up on some tips and tricks with folk style, but now if he intends to be in the lineup, he's going to have to go through the motions and learn that, and he will have time. Okay. So that's number one here, is that he does have time to learn folk style, to adjust to it. And somebody is a world champion. So this is number two, is that a world champion is going to be able to pick up on all of this. I don't think this is going to be too much of a learning curve. I don't think, is he going to struggle with it at first against better competition? Absolutely. But when you become a world champion this quickly, that tells me that Ono doesn't have any issues picking up on anything, that this will not be too much of a jump for him to go from freestyle to folk style. Because everyone says, oh, we'll just take him down or just choose top and you'll be able to win every single match against Ono. Okay. Ono is, the reason he wins in freestyle is because he is really good, exceptional at getting takedowns. And then he doesn't get taken down. That matchup against Spencer Lee finished with a score of 3-2. Ono does not get taken down very often. So good luck getting a takedown against him. And Ono, who's as strong as he is and as quick as he is going to get tons of takedowns, is not going to surrender a lot of takedowns. And okay, choose top, because Ono doesn't know how to, doesn't have the defense to get out from under bottom. If you really want to take your chances there that Ono, someone as speedy, as strong as he is, won't be able to learn the technique, and then B, be able to execute the technique, I think you got another thing coming here. So he is a title contender, guaranteed. Would he be a title favorite? It is tough to say, because at 133, that is a loaded weight class. To go up against the likes of Ryan Crookham, to go up against the likes of Lucas Bird. I still think his eligibility, he has a COVID year to use if he wants to. Lucas Bird can come back, and he should, to defend that national championship he just won. Drake Ayala of Iowa has another year. Nasir Bailey. All these guys at 133, if he's going to wrestle there and it's not Braden Davis, he's going to have to go. Braden Davis just finished top 5. So if Ono's going to be the guy at 133, he's going to have to go through Braden Davis, who just finished top 5. And I know what everybody's going to say. Well, Ono's going to defeat Davis. Okay, let them prove that. But 133 is a loaded weight class. Same thing with 141. Brock Hardy comes back. Jesse Mendez comes back. That's Vance Vonbauer comes back. Tegan Jameson of Oklahoma State. That is a strong weight class as well, just in terms of how top heavy it is. Okay, Jesse Mendez is a title favorite after just winning. Brock Hardy is going to be one of the title favorites, not as strong, but that's who we're talking about there. So at 33, at 41, He's a title contender. I think you could securely place him under, because he's going to defeat everybody else, even if he does struggle with the adjustments to folk style. If he really does, that still doesn't put him too far behind. I still think just in terms of his overall, his wrestling smarts, his technique, his speed, his strength, that's already going to put him in the conversation of being a top 3 wrestler as it is. I mean, and then depending on how we define all of this, depending on how we define it, does that make him, some people might say, yeah, if he's in the top 3, then he is a title favorite. He's one of the title favorites. But objectively speaking, I think we can all say that he is a title contender above all else. I have the confidence that Ono could go out there and give a run for their money against Drake Ayala or Lucas Bird or Jesse Mendez. I think those matchups would be so entertaining. So maybe I'm getting ahead of myself in the entertainment value of all of it, and I can see Ono defeating them. But he's certainly going to have to go through the training to get to that point, because Mendez does win on the little technical things, right? We saw that one against Bo Bartlett. It's the little technical things that make all the difference, and that separates you from a championship and being a runner-up. But I don't doubt that Ono's not going to be able to learn all of this in that time frame to get situated so he can go compete with the best of the best. So that's why I think he should be a title favorite. But he's an instant title contender regardless of where you put him. There's one other thing I want to address here specifically with Ono before we talk about the Penn State wrestlers that are entering into the transfer portal, because it does look like a mass exodus. This does look like a mass exodus, so we'll talk about it in just a moment here. People are making the comments, the argument that the only reason that Ono went to Penn State is because he received a bag. He's getting tons of NIL money from Penn State. If Ono's a student, I imagine that he's getting a scholarship. There is a scholarship increase. Wrestling teams can have up to 30 scholarships instead of 9.9, which is going to be an important detail with this next segment too. So stay with me there. Ono cannot receive NIL money, cannot receive NIL funds because he is an international citizen. The NCAA has rules against international citizens receiving NIL money. So Ono is doing this because he wants to. This is not because he's getting millions and hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars. No, Ono has said, I think Penn State is the best place to wrestle. So that is why he is there. He is not doing it for financial reasons. From my understanding, this was disclosed. There was a Flow Wrestling documentary, if you will, right? It was a day in the life of Ono training and getting ready ahead of the Spencer Lee match. And Ono talked about how his parents actually own a soy sauce company. So his family seems to be wealthy. What I'm getting at is that this has nothing to do with money and finances. Ono is doing this because he wants to train at Penn State. So if you think Penn State lured him there because of money, they gave him the biggest NIL offer, that's not what's going on here, because he literally cannot legally receive NIL funds. We got to talk about what's going on with the transfer portal here. Because not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 and potentially more could be on the way. Penn State wrestlers have entered the transfer portal, starting with Aaron Nagel, and 3 more have entered very recently. We're going to talk about why that is coming up next here on Locked On Nittany Lions. And today's episode is also brought to you by Monarch Money. Do you ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, entertainment, it's easy to lose track of. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center where you can track all of your accounts, investments, and spending all in one place. So you stop just managing your money, you start building wealth. You'll get surprising insights. I actually started using Monarch for myself, and I realized just how much I was spending on different things like eating out or getting package deliveries, something like that. Now I budget smarter and save more. You have all-in-one convenience with Monarch. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track your spending, and even plan long-term goals. You'll have easy collaboration too. Managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track your shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without all of the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE at monarchmoney.com for 50% off. That's right, 50% off your first year. That is monarchmoney.com. Code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for half off your first year.
The NCAA tournament is here, and so is the bracket breakdown.
Locked On Podcast Network and Amazon Fire TV channels are teaming up to deliver NCAA tournament coverage like never before. Watch studio shows featuring former players and Locked On's local experts as they guide you through every upset, buzzer beater, and bracket matchup.
Stream it all for free on Amazon Fire TV channel. Search Bracket Breakdown to see it all for free.
It's your team every day.
So for quite some time, Penn State and Cale Sanderson actually was able to offset this mass exodus in theory that, hey, the portal's there, but no one ever seems to jump into it. Well, that is happening. That has happened here as 5 former Penn State wrestlers have entered the transfer portal, and there is potentially, there could be potentially maybe 2 or 3 other wrestlers that could enter as well. At this point in time, Alex Facundo has entered in, Gary Steen, Marco Vespa, David Evans, and AJ Friccioni have all entered the portal. Let's discuss this. So why is this happening? Why all of a sudden are tons and tons? It feels that way. I mean, this is a lot. Normally, you might have 1, right? Terrell Barraclaw entered, and Michael Beard, right? One by one. Now it's all at once. It's 5 wrestlers all at once. And it is intriguing because Facundo could go start anywhere else. I'd even argue that Gary Steen could start at a lot of places. Same with David Evans. AJ Friccioni has a lot of potential as a 197 pounder. So these are household names that could be starters at other wrestling programs. Why this is happening, I think, has to do with the scholarship limit increase. Where it was 9.9, you wanted to be in the Penn State wrestling room because, okay, you weren't necessarily going to be on scholarship, but you still got to train with the best of the best. That was a guarantee. But now you have an opportunity to go out and get a scholarship because there's going to be scholarship increases everywhere, not just at Penn State. I don't know how many programs will absolutely go up to 30 scholarships, but now there are opportunities to go get a full ride from a university and be in the starting lineup or be able to train. Penn State also has to consider that too, since they don't have endless options. So this is what is, I guess, intriguing. It's kind of a shame at this point in time is that it's not about the scholarship limit increase. It's about the cap that they are putting on with how many wrestlers, how many competitors can be in the mat room. So Penn State is not allowed to have more than 30 wrestlers on the collegiate team. So that means there are no more walk-ons, that every scholarship is going to be calculated. And if Penn State's planning long-term and wrestlers are, so it's kind of both sides of it, where Penn State needs to be strategic with how many wrestlers can actually be in the mat room and take up a scholarship because each one, there's, like I said, there's not a lot of room. You can only have so many wrestlers there, but now you also increase the opportunities for other wrestlers to go make the most of it, get into a starting lineup. Look at what Terrell Barraclaw did. He went and became an All-American at Utah Valley. There is no doubt in my mind that Alex Facundo, Gary Steen, or Evans, or Vespa, or Friccioni could go start and have potential to be an All-American. Facundo was that as well when he was wrestling. When you look at them individually, for the likes of Alex Facundo and David Evans, for example, there's no room for them. Unfortunately, when it comes to the starting lineup, there is no way for Facundo to, the competitions have happened. Tyler Kasak won the wrestle-off. I know that Facundo dealt with an injury this past season as well, but when the wrestle-offs happened, Kasak defeated Facundo and took the 157 spot. Excuse me, he took 157. And Messenbrink wasn't going to get into a wrestle-off. That's where Facundo was originally at 165. Maybe you make the argument that Facundo could bump all the way up to 174, but then Levi Haynes did that, and Levi Haynes isn't losing a wrestle off either. Facundo's best option with his limited eligibility remaining, same thing with David Evans. Evans isn't beating Shane Van Ness at 49, or if he were to cut down to 41, I don't know if he would defeat Marcus Blaze or Ono or Braden Davis, or if he bumped up to 57, right? K-Sac's there, the starters, and K-Sac's there for another 2 seasons. Shane Van Ness is there for another 2 seasons. If your clock is running out on college eligibility, it makes sense. It would be a disservice to themselves for Facundo, for any of them, David Evans in particular, Gary Steen, for them not to go into the transfer portal try to get a scholarship, try to get into a starting lineup, and maximize their college eligibility while they have it. There is a possibility. Could Aaron Nagao go into the transfer portal? Absolutely. I've heard people say that Braden Davis is going to end up in the transfer portal because Ono committed and he's an instant starter at 133, guaranteed above all else. Why that first segment was an important discussion point is because Penn State has options. Notice how I didn't lay out options. Well, Facundo could do this with Penn State, or David Evans could do this with Penn State. They could move up. They could redshirt. They don't have those options. Even Lillidahl has the option to redshirt. They have flexibility at the lighter weights. These guys don't have a lot of flexibility right now. They got to make a decision, and whatever decision they make, they got to own it. Aaron Nagao might be in a similar situation where he's probably going to get a medical redshirt for this season. Again, he missed this past season due to injury. He's already redshirted once before. If he went into the portal, I wouldn't be surprised. If he stayed at Penn State, I wouldn't be surprised because I think he can contend for a spot at 33 or 41 if he is fully healthy. It depends on what Penn State and Nagao happen to figure out. But I don't expect, Nagao might end up doing that, and Davis could do that for all we know. For all we know, those options, but it's also on the table for them to stay, for them to compete, and be in the starting lineup when maybe not everybody expects that to happen at the end of the day. So one way or another, I think we are going to see more names enter the transfer portal from Penn State. They might be some more names that are backups. They don't have a clear path into the starting lineup, and they might be some names that do carry some pedigree there. Maybe it's Aaron Nagao. I don't think this one happens. Maybe it is Braden Davis as well. I'm putting it out there because of the circumstances. It is a possibility, even though I don't think it's likely or even happens at all. Plus, remember this. Just because they enter the transfer portal and explore their options doesn't mean they necessarily transfer out. Penn State can re-recruit them. They can get them to come back, but the understanding is going to be if you go into the portal that you are looking for a chance to start while you still have your college eligibility and where you can still train and get the best exposure, but you're going to get that at Penn State. You know that. You're going to train with the best of the best, even though it might not be in the starting lineup for the collegiate team, but know that you are getting the best resources at Penn State. Those names that go into the transfer portal aren't necessarily guaranteed to leave, but they are exploring their options. A lot covered today in this episode. So no, these conversations don't stop. These discussions are not going to stop as the wrestling season has come to an end, but the offseason has just gotten started. So we're going to have plenty more conversations, plenty of more analysis around what the lineup could look like, what Penn State's options are, react to the news as it happens in real time. With transfer portal departures, maybe Penn State does get a transfer portal addition. We'll see what ultimately happens here, but it's all going to be right here on Locked On Nittany Lions, the #1 Penn State sports podcast out there. If you are new to the show, subscribe to the YouTube channel and wherever you get your podcasts. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments section and be on the lookout for more conversations around your favorite Penn State sports teams, whether that's wrestling, football, men's basketball. It's all right here on Locked On Nittany Lions. And again, thank you so much for checking out this episode of Locked On Nittany Lions, and thank you for making us your first listen and watch every single day. For your second listen and watch, you got to check out Locked On College Basketball with hosts Isaac Shade and Andy Patton. Become the most informed college basketball fan out there as the madness is here. We're in the thick of the tournament. You don't want to miss any of the news, the analysis. It's all over at Locked On College Basketball. It's available on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts.